So I'm actually going to cut that ash because I want 2 escape routes, a 45. If I'm going that way, I want to be able to go that way clearly or that way clearly, depending upon what happens.
Your body, move yourself that way.
Yeah, once it starts to go, because, you know, I can see up there that we're pretty clear and there's no big branches, widowmakers they call them, that are inevitably going to break and come plummeting down at me, but I've got to be prepared for that, you know, regardless of whether I think it's a possibility or not. So.
Okay.
So I'm going to start the saw and get this kind of tuned up a little bit, and then I'm going to rope up to that and then run the rope out towards the tractor as a precaution if we need to pull it down. And normally I'd use a cable. Like if the skidder was running, I'd potentially do it with this just to run it, but you know, it's not. I'm going to leave this because it may live, it may not, but...
That pretty much sums up your attitude towards other living things?
Yeah, pretty much. Almost complete nihilistic indifference. Make
So what is this rope achieving right now?
Nothing. I'm not putting tension on it. I'm only doing this if, like, it's going to start to go. I'm going to drop it about right where I am. But there's some pretty decent branches in here that may lock it in at this.
And at that point you would need...
I'll just tractor up and drag it down.
Huh.
Something you do, like, what I've taken to doing in this situation, like if I had my tractor here with a logging winch, I'd connect the cable to it. And I wouldn't even, I'd leave a big thick hinge, cut it, and then just pull it down.
To get it exactly where you want.
If the skidder was running, we'd probably just do that as to fuck around with.
So start over and cut.
And cut. So these saws here, these Husqvarna 562 XP, have a, they've got a sight. Most modern saws have a sight, so that's exactly 90 degrees to the bar, and that's what this is. So when I'm deciding where I want to fell this, I use this as my sight, like on a gun or something. So you know, I line it up like this, and I want this to be a bit left of the tractor, so I line that up right there, and that's how I determine the angle of my notch. Yeah. And then I think it's something like no more than 20% depth for the face cut or the felling notch, and I want that to be a 90-degree face or close to it. So it's hard when you're tall to make it like horizontal, but in this case I'm kind of down slope, so it'll be a bit easier. And I'm often I want to, you know, when trying to get the most out of a log, especially in the summer or whatever. You want your notch and back cut to be as low to the ground as possible, just utilizing as much profitable lumber as possible in this case. All right, should just fire. Alright, so in theory, that's pretty darn close to 90. It's not perfect, but it's, you know, that's the idea. Look at the beauty of that though, huh? Already, just the beautiful waves of the grain there. So that's about right. That's about the size of the face cut that we want. Sometimes if you can't line them up well, you'll want to like tune up the mouth of the notch, the edge of the mouth of the notch. In this case, it's fine. There's no real reason to. All right, so I'm going to do my back cut next, which is the felling cut. And there's a couple ways to do that. In this case, I think what I'll do, just kind of for the show of it or whatever, or it's just a technique to practice, is a plunge cut. So I'll go in like this, plunge the bar right through the wood, leaving my hinge, which I want about 10% of the thickness of the tree. So in this case, maybe 2.5 inches. Plunge in, and then back cut all the way. And you know, in many circumstances, I'd have felling wedges where when I do my back cut here, I'd put a felling wedge here and a felling wedge here. In this case, again, I've got the rope as insurance, but I've also got gravity, and all the weight of the tree, that the crown is facing out towards the field and downhill. So there's literally no chance of it going that way, falling back or pinching the bar. Yeah, so here we go. I'm gonna have you stand back a little ways, and I'll, yeah, I think that's probably the prudent thing. Now I'm aware of the fact that there is a kind of a stiff breeze, and it's coming from the direction that I want to be cutting, so it's coming from the east. But it's not stiff enough to where it's going to interfere with the actual falling of the tree. So I'm aware of it, but I'm not allowing it to make, you know, change how I'm dropping the tree. Maybe a giant pine I would be aware of, like a wind gust could put it back on the saw and pinch it, but not in this case.
Because of the leaf canopy?
Yeah, because of the canopy, the height, like that giant pine out there, you know, a big gust could push it back when, like, I've got a plan to drop it out into the field, but if the wind is coming from the other direction, it could fall back towards me or whatever. If it's going somewhere where I'm not planning, I'm suddenly losing control. You know?
So how many steps would you say between now and the tree being on the ground? Is it one move? You're going to plunge cut?
I'm going to plunge cut, work back, just make sure I'm looking good. I'm going to leave a little bit of wood here just for a minute to just make sure you're in a good position, I'm in a good position. That's the trigger. I'll probably pull the bar out, I'll make that cut, but yeah, I mean, a minute and a half.
And then it'll just happen.
It'll start to go.
Okay.
Yep. And then if it gets hung up, which it totally might, I'll connect that rope with the tractor and just pull it down.
Sounds good.
Yep. Et voila. So that's...
How long would you say it took that tree to grow that size?
Well, 40 years?
So you're feeling pretty good about yourself right now?
No, I feel all right. I mean, it's not an accident that it goes exactly the way it should. You know, this is the Soren Eriksson method of directional felling that works really well every time. It's safe and it's consistent. And this is what I was talking about with the hinge. So I had total control over that tree with this bit of wood here, this fibrous, really tough part of the wood, because a tree's life, its whole life, it's moving in the breeze. So this right here is the strongest part of the tree, where the wood grain is the toughest and the most kind of gnarly and sinewy. And as a result, I can use that to my advantage with this hinge, taking it all the way to the ground. That hinge didn't break until it touched the ground. So I had complete control. Obviously, once it's falling, I don't have control. And the other thing too, right here isn't always the best place to be standing immediately after a tree falls, but the first thing I did was to look up to make sure that the canopy was clear of any hanging branches left by either this or neighboring trees. So I am happy that there's no heart rot coming all the way down through. That's always kind of a concern when there's scars somewhere along the tree, but in this case, we're fine. Yeah, and you can go through and count the ring, so I think it's probably going to be somewhere around 40 or something like that. Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna get out that rope.
We'll be titling this segment "No Man is an Island, but Some Trees Are,"
That's right. Nature abhors a vacuum.
especially in the middle of the kitchen.
This is a good example of something like, remember I told you I might not leave this or whatever, so now, in this case it's broken, but these little things can be kind of dangerous if this wasn't broken here. That meaning there's no real tension there, but like this is why you cut little things like this down beforehand, so it doesn't interact in a potentially deleterious way, where if I were to not pay attention and I were to nip that down there, it could come up and knock my helmet off, knock my chin, you know, give me a right there Fred that I don't want. So I'm gonna spool up this rope.
I'm not going to say it was anticlimactic because it makes a pretty great sound, and that those 10 seconds of watching it start to fall are pretty good.
Yeah.
But that's much simpler than I was.
It's incredibly simple. I mean, it's not a coincidence that it's simple. It should be simple. It shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be complicated. It shouldn't have anxiety. You should know, like, you know, I can set up a Coke can and drop a tree on a Coke can over and over with this technique. And like this is really easy. It's downhill. It's into a field. This is perfect. When we're out in the woods, it's a different circumstance. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just go through a bit of knocking or wherever you want. So, it might get loud, as Jack White says. See, there was tension. And you see, when I move, and this is something I'm doing specifically because I'm on camera more than anything, but it's also best practice. When I move, you notice I knock the chain brake on. The chain brake prevents the chain from sliding or moving at all. So then when I get to where I'm going, chain brake off, go. I move, chain brake on. So I'm never moving with the possibility of throttling up and cutting myself. So right there, I'm cutting the top off of the back. So without even looking up and down, I can't tell you if it has tension or compression. Likely it has compression, meaning it's going to go like that instead of that. I start doing my top cut and I just notice that this kerf, this space is starting to close a little bit, and I pull the saw out. That means it's got compression. So I do that, that's my release, and then I'll do a back cut or a bottom cut that allows it to open up, and then I won't pinch my bar. I'm going to get up here with the tractor and chain up to this and then pull it away a little bit, and then if there's any branches left, I'll tune those up. But with that tractor and we're pulling downhill through a field, we'll have no problem hauling this whole thing down, and then we can determine what we want to saw and what we want to get out of it. So maybe stand up sick. Colloquially known as a cat dog.
What is it?
But it's invented by a guy named Jake Peavy, and he was inspired by watching river drivers in the 1800s up in Bangor, Maine, brewer as a matter of fact. And he realized that they could have a better tool, and the amount of leverage you get from this is incredible. You can move enormous tree-length logs just like this. So it sticks in and you get a lot of control. Wonderful.
And then we decide which side is the top for the first cut, or do you just...
Wherever it kind of lands will be.
Because you're going to create a flat side?
Create a flat side, yeah.
Cool.
You know, if it were a different circumstance, I might. Yeah, we'll go with one of these.
Just one?
I thought the little ones might be enough, but... Alright. Well, anchored in position. One. I've been kind of spoiled by all the different mills that I've used that some of them have automated versions of these.
Automated in the sense you push a button and they...
Lever and you just you can automated spinners and everything, but for the time this was still pretty cutting edge. Speaking of cutting edge, so I tensioned it this morning. I came in and I just got everything ready and I got it to about the right, what I think is about the right tension. So we'll see. This is a lot harder wood than the hemlock we milled the other day, so I'll know right away. See what we're working with.
Is this spalting?
No, it isn't. This is the result of the scar. Spalting, you might be able to call that a little bit of spalting. Spalting is the fungus when it starts to, you know, rot and break down a little bit. But this is good. I like this because it's still hard. It's still really nice. And then it's character.
Great.
You know, that's part of the reason we chose this log specifically. We chose this log.
Yeah, I played a big part in that.
Quite a big part in it. I'm not just entirely comfortable. So what we have here is the makings of a timber-framed kitchen island that I'm going to be making with the homeowner on the remodel that I'm working on here. So we dropped the sugar maple out of the sugar orchard on their property this morning. And the reason we chose this one was it had some scarring from either previous logging, or a tree fell on it, or maybe a bug injury at some point. But and also, as a result, we've got some really nice figures, some really nice grain patterns where it was starting to rot, but it's still really hard. So these are, well, they're 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. These are what the legs are going to be, and I'm going to do notches. And the structure, the skeleton of it's going to be out of the 2x4s and 2x3. And this is all hard maple, all sugar maple, or rock maple, depending on what we are. And I'm using this Sanborn Min-Max. So this is a really interesting, really profoundly powerful and well-designed engineered mill. And this is made in this town, by the guy who lives less than a mile from where I'm standing right now, and he's working on a crazy wood splitter, and he's endlessly engineering new contraptions and inventing things. He built this from scratch. They machined the flywheels, they machined the gears, they did everything for this. And you can mill, oh boy, what is these? These will take 30 feet long and 36-inch wide. It's a really nice sawmill, really powerful. It's an amazingly designed, amazingly engineered mill. I've used some of the, I used another version of these in with a friend, Keith, to mill out some stuff for the house from trees. But this is the first time I've milled any rock maple on one of these, and it's really nice. It's a really nice kerf. It's very flat, very clean. So, all right, I'm gonna take these back to the house and start kind of figuring it out and laying out my my notch pattern, and maybe start cutting. So here we go.